Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of What Would That Sound Like? The show where I take the thoughts of today's top thought leaders and break them down to show you how to communicate them to your teams, companies, and conferences. I'm your host, Sean Patrick, and I just finished my time with Jeb Blount's book, Fanatical Prospecting, which is all about the grind of sales. If you are in sales, if you lead a team that is in sales, this is a good book for you to check out. I'm going to be breaking down the 3 P's that prevent sales prospecting. So let's figure out what would that sound like. Sales prospecting and sales in general is incredibly difficult because nobody likes to be turned down or feel like a failure. Cold calling's hard. Everything about sales is difficult. And there's 3 specific things that keep us from filling that sales pipeline with potential clients and customers. And we're gonna break down the 3 P's that prevent sales prospecting right now. So if you're taking notes, write this down. The first P is procrastination. Procrastination. There is nothing easier than putting something off. Now here's the deal. What happens is we tell ourselves, particularly with sales, we can do this later. I've got some other stuff I want to do first. I can regain that 5 minutes, that 30 minutes, whatever amount of time you usually spend prospecting and making calls. We can get that back later. But the truth is, most of the time, we can't, because we've already lost that time. Here's something to think about. Have you ever heard the children's riddle before? How do you eat an elephant? Well, the answer is 1 bite at a time. Now, if you miss those 5 or 30-minute segments that move you closer to your ultimate goal, you'll likely find yourself having to eat the entire elephant at one time, and you will die. Now, thankfully, that's just a metaphor. But likely what will happen is if you lose those 5 to 30-minute segments where you should be prospecting, you should be cold calling, you should be sending those emails, you'll feel overwhelmed at the end of the day, and you may even just put it off because it feels now like an impossible task rather than a very bite-sized task had you done it at the beginning of the day. Slow and steady really does win the race, and that's true of sales too. So that's the first P. The second P is this: perfectionism. Write that down, perfectionism. What's ironic about perfectionism is that it actually stems from an intense desire to succeed. But that intense desire to succeed, oftentimes as a perfectionist, can become our downfall. If you are a perfectionist, if you know a perfectionist, you know this very, very well. We're so determined to get everything right that we end up doing nothing at all. And that's not good for sales, it's not good for life, it's not good for anything. Here's what I want you to know. I want you to write this down. I want you to put it on a Post-it note, slap it on your computer, write it on your whiteboard, put it on your bathroom mirror. If you're a perfectionist, you need to know this. Messy success beats perfectionism every time. Let me say it again. Messy success beats perfectionism every time. If you're so focused on all of getting everything perfect that you don't ever pull the trigger, you don't ever pick up the phone, you're never gonna get that W. You're never gonna get that win. Messy success beats perfectionism every time. I'm not telling you to go into cold calls or go into emails or however you're doing your sales without being prepared at all. No, that would be negligent. I'm saying leave the perfectionism at the door, because messy success beats taking an L, beats taking a loss, beats perfectionism every single time. So that's the second P that prevents us from sales prospecting. Easy for me to say. The third and final P is paralysis. Write that down. Paralysis. The final hurdle is paralysis by analysis. When you overthink things and you think through every single possibility, every single what if scenario, you waste time and you waste a tremendous amount of emotional energy that you could be putting towards and could be using prospecting and making those calls. The truth is, we spend so much time, or we can spend so much time worrying about the what ifs of the situation. What if they're not interested? What if they don't answer? What if I have to set up another time? What if their assistant answers? Can I leave a voice? It doesn't matter. We spend so much time focusing on the what ifs, most of which aren't even gonna happen. And not only are you losing time, but you're losing a lot of that emotional energy and emotional margin that you should be putting towards sales prospecting. You're wasting that just being in your own head. Just being in your own head. you're putting out what I like to call imaginary fires. Fires that aren't even necessarily in existence. They're not necessarily there. You're spending your time being a firefighter trying to put out problems that don't even exist. So don't let that paralysis stop you from just picking up the phone. Don't fall into that trap of analysis paralysis and never even getting to the point where the what ifs that you're worrying about aren't even in existence because you haven't even made the call. Now, I said this at the beginning, none of us like to feel like a failure, none of us like to be rejected. It's just a part of the human experience that none of us enjoy. And in sales, you get a lot of that. And so we can get stuck in this rut of these 3 Ps that prevent us from our sales prospecting. We can get stuck in the procrastination because if we can put it off, well, we won't have to feel that rejection if someone's not interested in our offer. We get stuck in perfectionism, wanting to make sure we've got the perfect pitch so we don't succumb to failure. And we get stuck in that paralysis by analysis, which prevents us from even moving forward. But the truth is, if you're going to be successful, not just in sales, but in life, you want to put those 3 things aside and make sure you do your job as well as you possibly can. And that's what it would sound like. I really like these, not like I said at the end, not just for sales, but for life. We can all get stuck in those 3 Ps from doing whatever's important. One thing I would add that I didn't talk about, just a quick bonus tip on this, is there's another book called Eat the Frog. And the idea with this book is that if you had to eat something gross, if you had to eat a frog in this case, we're talking about eating a lot of weird animals today, you'd want to do it at the beginning of your day because it's the worst, grossest thing. You want to get it out of the way. You don't want it looming or lurking over your head. So you just want to get it taken care of so you don't have to do it later. You don't have to worry about it. And it's the same thing with sales, is that if you know that cold calling is not your thing, but it's a huge part of sales and you got to do it, front load it in the beginning of your day so that you can get it out of the way. And so you don't have to have it looming or lurking over you, just like that idea of eating something gross. Front load it, get it done, and that'll free you up physically and emotionally to get the other stuff done. So if you want to add that, that's a great tip to have there as well. That's all I got for you this week. If you want to get in touch with me, my personal email is SeanPatrickDJ. That's SEAN PatrickDJ@gmail.com. If you've got a presentation coming up, check out the link below. I will send you my free PDF to get you prepared for that. I'd love to connect with you and be a part of your network, whether that's on LinkedIn, Instagram, or otherwise. You can find me just about everywhere at SeanPatrickDJ. So until next time, we'll see you right back here on What Would That Sound Like?